So we can proceed. All right, let's go ahead and get public comment out of the way. As usual, we spend about 20 minutes total. 2 minutes per speaker, please. That being said, let's maintain some decorum, no public attacks, watch your language. We are streaming to Facebook. Do we have any public comments?
Yeah, I'll go first. Bayani. I feel like most people know about the Sergeant Nowacki, who's a admitted oath keeper. Myself and others in the district, as well as others across the city, held a town hall meeting last month on this very issue of oath keepers within CPD and specifically Nowacki. And there is a lot of community outcry over it, and something needs to be done. So the community has demonstrated that they want something done. And so firstly, I want to ask that the commander come back to the community and answer to us and say where she stands on this issue as we put forward demands, that being to fire these officers and to establish a task force looking into white supremacist extremism within CPD. So I know that Councilors Orlikoff and Vargas have signed on to these.
I'm Sally Heyman, and I basically support exactly what Bayani said. I was at that town hall, and it was an overflow crowd, people that showed up, plus aldermen, people from the CCPSA, and from the Office of the Inspector General, and they all were saying basically the same thing, that you know, it is just horrible that we have known oath keepers, you know, in our police force, and we have one of the worst, I think, here in the 14th district. Nowacki, who's got a long history of not most of it, his a lot of problems that have been documented over the years. They were mainly in the 22nd district, and then he moved to the 14th. But he has a long history of treating people horribly, and it's just, and he's a sergeant. So he's in charge of other police officers in our district, and I just think that's outrageous. So I would encourage, you know, all you, Christopher Ron, I would encourage you to also back that proposal, and let's really push to get the commander here. When we met with her last, she said she didn't even know there was a problem with him, if I remember correctly. So we asked her to investigate that, and I'd like to hear what she has to say. And I think, plus there's a bunch of other questions I'd like to ask her, where she didn't have answers because she was not a data person. So I would really like to get her back again as soon as possible. I think it's important that we meet with her regularly. So if you all could make that happen, that would be greatly appreciated.
Thank you for your comments. Ms. Fortman.
I have a question. How are people notified about these community meetings? Because, you know, I'm active in the community at some point, and I didn't hear anything. How were they notified?
You mean the meeting that we had?
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't it wasn't a community meeting. It wasn't a meeting that, like, the community could come, but it wasn't done through the district councils. It was done through my organization. And so, yeah.
Well, I was just confused because you said it was a community meeting, so.
There was one. It was in June or July. Allison Schmidt, for the record. There was one in June or July that Sally is referring to, where the commander was here, where we asked specifically about the data. She did say, I'm not a data person. I'm happy to come back and bring my data guy. And there was definitely a clear willingness expressed on her end to come back and engage with us. So that was promoted through the 14th
I was
district.
there.
Excellent. Yeah, so I want a follow-up meeting to that.
Are you referring to the one that I was
Yes.
talking about?
Okay.
Yeah, that was a meeting that my organization held, and you know, if you would like to be reached out to for future things, then
Okay.
I'd love to get your information.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other public comment?
Did Mike get reported my request to have a follow-up with the commander, follow-up from this summer's meeting?
So your comments are once again?
My comment is that I would like to, again, remind the 14th District Council that we are expecting a follow-up meeting with Commander Lenis that she agreed to back this summer, which I believe that meeting was for that public meeting that was part of the 14th District Council, where she said that she would definitely come back and report out on us on not only the Oath Keeper piece, but also the data. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments. Do we have any other public comments that anyone would like to share? And if you could state your name for it.
Mark Hubert, Logan Square, Avondale. Apologies for late, miscalculated the transit time. So I may say something that's already been said. I'm interested in just learning more about the process and hopefully participating in connecting with the people who are supposed to serve and protect. As somebody who's Jewish, I always kind of wonder, like, what were Germans thinking in the early 30s when, party was rising to power, but hadn't quite had power? And I think a lot of people are like, oh, it's not gonna happen. And hopefully it won't. Hopefully our far more diverse society, and some of us remember history, don't want that to happen. But I also don't want to, I don't want to be hopeless, and I want to think that the majority of people who join the police force actually want a decent job and they want to serve. And the culture is obviously sick, and they then get indoctrinated that they're at risk. They're, somebody's always going to try and kill them. Everybody hates them, and that feeds the negative culture. So I'm interested in learning more, because I think that if we can connect on a community and on a citizen and on a human level to everybody, that when we take to the streets to protect our brown neighbors, when the federal government sends the ICE into our communities, that we don't have to wonder what side they're going to be on. Our fellow neighbors who also have a badge and a gun. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any other public comments that anyone would like to share? Okay, that being said, we'll go ahead and move on from public comments, which will terminate the interactive portion of the meeting. We will get down into the business meeting aspect of things. We'll do district council updates. I'll let Councilor Orlikoff lead us off with that one. Or if you'd like to read, I don't know if you've got Councilor Vargas's updates with you.
I do not.
I know that they.
Do you want to do it first? That'd be great. Thank you.
You want me to read it, or you want someone to pretend I'm Ashley?
I don't want to do it.
I'll read it out.
She can do it.
Thank you so much. All right, per Councilor Vargas, who is not in attendance today, but she wants me to say, or anyone here to say, hello everyone, thank you for taking time to be here today. While I'm unable to attend in person, I wanted to provide a couple of quick updates. Reminder, reach out for support when dealing with police. She says, recently I assisted an elderly gentleman who had been repeatedly denied a police report for a hit and run incident. After being turned away twice at the 14th District, he sought help from the Alderman's office, which then connected us. I accompanied him to the station along with another district counselor from the 17th District, and we were finally able to secure a police report. Unfortunately, the experience wasn't about challenges. The constituent was still denied a report because it was 10 days after the incident. And when we asked for a supervisor, the desk sergeant responded aggressively. We've since filed a COPA complaint for conduct unbecoming of an officer. It is now with BIA. The incident is a reminder. If you need support when dealing with police or navigating the district, please reach out to your council. We are here to help and to ensure that your rights are respected. Okay, second update, updates on commissioner nomination process. She goes on to say that we recently completed a process to nominate a replacement for Westside Lawyer Commissioner Kelly Presley. This included reviewing applications, resumes, and letters of support, conducting interviews, and holding a closed meeting with all 22 nominators to discuss our recommendations. We nominated 2 individuals. First of which is Gina Piemonte, a Cook County Public Defender. She is pioneering a thoughtful approach to representation, ensuring clients have the same attorney throughout their entire case. She also trains young lawyers and incorporates peace circles that bring together police, attorneys, and individuals involved in the justice system to foster dialogue and understanding. The second nominee is a person by the name of Shay Allen, a civil rights attorney for over 10 years. Shay has dedicated most of his career to advocating for marginalized communities, providing pro bono representation to clients in need, and demonstrating commitment to justice and fairness. Both candidates bring strong leadership and vision to the commission, and I'm excited to work to see one of them serve on the commission. And third update is the upcoming CCPSA meeting, which she says we have an important CCPSA meeting coming up on December 12th, and our police superintendent will be in attendance. This is an opportunity for community members to engage directly and voice their concerns or ideas. I encourage everyone to attend and make public comment if you feel called to do so. She goes on to say, thank you and happy holidays. Reach out if you have any questions or would like to connect. So those are into the record. Okay.
Oh, the CCPs. Okay, thanks.
All right, and Council Orlikoff, we will go on with you.
Okay. I'll give an update about something that was in the news and where I was yesterday. There have been combined efforts to find housing for people that were living in tent encampments in Humboldt Park for a long time, and a lot of housing options were found for the vast majority of the people there, but for various reasons, different individuals some of the individuals would have preferred the option of having their own tent to some of the options that have been available to them historically, or that they feel were available to them at present, whether because it would involve splitting up their family or being in larger combined living situations, having less access to personal belongings, curfew, etc., other things that can make it harder to have a more self-sustaining, safe and comfortable life. So, you know, it was a contentious situation, and there was some police involvement throughout the day. 2 arrests that I was aware of, not of the homeless people within the camp, but of some people that were attempting to support them to prevent their tents from being taken and destroyed. And there were, late into the day, so there was a lot of the agencies, mainly headed by DFSS, were operating in a large force yesterday, trying to get people that were still in the park different options, and I forget what I was saying. But they shut down most of their operations. They were in the field house by about 5 p.m. and there were at that point 2 tents remaining in the park. The arrests had been a little bit earlier in the day, like around 3. There were no arrests to my knowledge after that point, but there was police presence to kind of in a somewhat of a show of force, but to let people know that they would not be allowing them to remain in the park after 11 p.m. So after that was made clear, over the next couple hours, the 3 remaining individuals in the 2 tents did decide to seek other options outside of Humboldt Park. So as of the present, there are no people living in Humboldt Park, and there is a new policy in effect that the police said that they're going to enforce, where they're not going to permit anyone to return to live or to have a tent or personal belongings in the park. So they're said to be enforcing the park rules, with zero tolerance, and yeah, I was there with the Illinois Union of the Homeless, just trying to assist people in various ways. That's it.
Okay, thank you for your updates. Okay, I've got a couple of quick notes. First and foremost, I want to apologize for not being here for the November meeting. I did have some personal items that came up. However, I can say that I was hard at work on a couple of other items, one of which kind of taking a very detailed look at the current CCPSA, the 2 tax 80, tax 70 portion on how we can slim things down, make them more efficient and that sort of thing. And I can share that later. I've presented it to a number of decision makers in city council, and it's currently under review, and I could give you what I presented, but it's probably not gonna look anything like what will wind up coming out the other end of it. So that being said, I also wanted to, for the record, note that today is Pearl Harbor Day. As many of you may know, I am a proud Navy veteran, and this is a reminder of the U.S. being pulled into World War II. Took place on this day in 1941. So I'd be remiss if we didn't recognize that. I've got 2 organizations that reached out to me, one of which is the Bucktown Community Organization, and this is more for the record. I want to acknowledge their efforts to positively celebrate the holidays while building community building. They're currently out as we speak, doing caroling throughout the Indy Row Holiday Market. If anyone is interested in connecting with them, I have my cards here. I can push it to you. I also have a sign-up sheet for my newsletter in the back if you'd like to be included on that. The other item that I wanted to bring up, I had an organization called iMentor, and this is Mr. Salins had mentioned prior to the meeting that he was doing some teaching work online. And this is kind of in line with that. This is a volunteer thing. They're looking for 50 mentors for the North Grand High School, and reaching out asking for support. As mentioned in my previous item, if you'd like to participate in that, I have cards here, or you can sign up for my email, and I can share that information with anyone that's interested. With that, that concludes my updates. All right, discussions. Okay, you want to take police accountability, DC's vote to make ending pretextual stops a 2025 commission priority.
Yeah, thanks. Hi, so we had our annual meeting, all of the district councilors, November 13th, maybe, or 6th, November something. And prior to that, we had voted online for a number of proposals, many of which became commission priorities. So earlier in the year, we set a process where any district councilor could, if they had 7 district councilors that would agree to sign off with them, they could make a proposal that would be decided on by all of the district councilors. So we used that process to come up with the recommended commission priorities that we are required to do every year. And one of the ones that made the list for 2025 is the proposal, that stemmed from this meeting a year and some months ago. This council voted for it, probably the first council to vote for it, and now it is the official policy, not just of the district councils, but for the commission for 2025. So the handouts are available. I passed out some of them. I'm not going to read this whole thing word for word right now because that would be excessive. But it just lays out the 3 elements of the policy, which is end pretextual traffic stops, which is when law enforcement uses the excuse of some violation when their true motivation is to search for something else, like called phishing, looking for guns or drugs or whatever. 2, limit stops for low-level offenses, things that don't concern public safety, whether that's a seatbelt or things of that nature, and suspicionless consent searches, which is kind of the when they're asking to search your car, but there can be a lot of coercive elements to that, and if they don't have any reasonable articulable suspicion. If they don't have a reasonable suspicion of their own basis, they shouldn't be extorting searches from different people. So then there's a lot of some of all of the numbers like 280, 30, section 3.5, those all explain the different ways that this policy aligns with the ordinance that empowers the created the district councils. all of the duties and responsibilities that we in the commission have to ensure that we're good stewards of the public resources that we're giving. And clearly these are a waste. Obviously, they're harmful to communities and to the relationships with police, and lead to ineffective policing. We also need to follow the community's will and explore, better solutions. So for all those reasons, I won't go into all of the problems with it because, again, we've discussed it, but you're welcome to read. And to conclude on the traffic stop portion, very, very importantly, the commission, after, not as a result of this annual priority process that just concluded, but as a result of the petitions that were submitted, the 2,400 petitions submitted earlier this summer by the community to the commission, they started a subcommittee with Commissioners Terry and Aaron Gottlieb. And they are, it's a pretextual traffic stop subcommittee. So that they have organized community listening sessions, and this one, the first one, is probably the only one that will be relatively close to the 14th district. It's on the table, but it's at the JLM Center at 2622 West Jackson Boulevard, so just a little bit south of us. But at 2622 West Jackson on December 17th, Tuesday, at 6:30 p.m. So from 6:30 to 8 p.m., the commission is having their official listening session for the West Side about pretextual traffic stops. And they do particularly want to hear how are people in communities being affected. So that could mean that you or someone has been pulled over. It could also mean maybe that you understand how the police's priorities play into other problems that you might be experiencing. So briefly, are there any questions related to the traffic stops update? And again, these the policy and the hearing information are on the table. Okay, great. Thank you so much.
We're going to take a quick pause in the discussions portion because I realized that we didn't review the minutes and approve them.
Okay.
There's no minutes from last week.
For October?
Well, we didn't really have a meeting with
We meet in
quorum.
October.
Yes.
We can do this.
Sorry.
Well, that being said, I just didn't want to overlook it. If we could, and I know it's very, it's not very visible for us to do it this way, but we do have a mandate saying that we have to have them done by the following month, which would be this month. If we could have those delivered to us via email for an email vote?
I think November doesn't count, so I can give it till January. Because
Okay.
there was no quorum meeting in November, but I understand what you're asking.
Okay, so
Or is it-
with that being said, Councilor Orlikoff, do you have any objections to us postponing the approval of October's meeting minutes until January?
No objection.
All right, that being said, by unanimous consent, we will vote on those in January. Sorry for the interruption there. Councilor Orlikoff, what do you have for restorative justice?
First, just very briefly, I'm not actually going to get into it, but we also have, I spoke about this at the last meeting. The only current policy under review by the commission is the policy called General Order 0111, which is how CPD relates to the district councilors and the commission. So the number one policy that we set in our first year that they've been working on this year is in the back and forth review process. And I spoke more about it last time. I'm not planning to get into a large thing this time, but I believe we have some copies available, or actually there's one copy there. I have two copies as well. So if you'd like a copy, grab it. But some of the key questions in there relate to the district the district's attendance at these meetings. So so should the commander be required to attend, or could they just send the cap sergeant or a lieutenant or a captain? And do they have to attend all the meetings, or do they attend the meetings when we request them, or we can let them know if they need to or not? So that's one question. The other question is check-in meetings privately with the district counselors. Is that discretionary, or is that spelled out in some way so that there's a standard access? So those are some of the important questions that are addressed within this policy. All right, thanks.
Okay.
And then so into the restorative justice, all I wanted to point out was, again, we have, I have a QR code and a flyer here, but the Institute for Nonviolence Chicago is hosting a virtual lunch and learn, they call it, so just a webinar at noon on Friday, December 13th. And it is titled Measuring Peace, a deep dive into CVI data and impact. That's community violence intervention or interruption. So Tenny Gross has spoken about how he's basically constantly bombarded with the question of, so what's the data on your impact or results, and it's difficult to do data in a small setting, but I'm very interested myself to learn what their current best representation of the data is, because they speak greatly about the effectiveness of the models and specific impacts. So it's a question that I think people have had before. We haven't been discussing this much recently, but I think this should be pretty interesting. So again, it's on the table. That's it.
Okay, and anything on evidence-based approaches to community safety?
Our guest speaker
Okay.
presentation, I think we can
Has
call.
our guest speaker arrived?
Yeah. Yes. And do you have some? Do you have a resource?
I do, yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. So we have a guest speaker today. We're very lucky to host Bernardo Gomez. He is from the Community Safety Coordinating Center, which is a relatively new, right under the Mayor Brandon Johnson Public Safety Initiative, or.
So I can talk a little bit more.
Yeah, okay. So Bernardo is here, and he's going to speak about what he does, and he also created 2 new community resource guides for Logan Square and Humboldt Park, and he has copies available for us today. So thank you, and let's give him some of our attention.
Thank you.
So thank you, everyone. Hi, everyone. My name is Bernardo Gomez. Thank you to the district councilors, 14 districts, for inviting us. I'm joined here by my colleague, John Jones. Just want to give a brief overview about our office and how we are working collaboratively with community. So the Community Safety Coordination Center.
Is it okay we move in the front? Right here?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just so we can see everyone.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you.
And we're going to sit down so we have a conversation.
Yeah, please be comfortable. We appreciate it.
You want me to hand your?
Oh, yeah, please, if you can. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we don't have a formal presentation, but we're really big on just having a conversation about community safety, and we really want to hear a lot of your concerns of what community safety is and how we can work together. So very quick, I just wanted to reintroduce myself. My name is Bernardo Gomez. I'm one of the community engagement managers for the Community Safety Coordination Center, overseeing the west side and the far south side. That includes Humboldt Park, Austin, Garfield, West Pullman, and the Rosen area. And then I'll pass it over to my colleague, John Jones, to present himself.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is John Jones. I'm on the leadership team at the CSCC, as we call it. I oversee all of the CSCC's rapid response efforts. The CSCC, we were originated under the Lori Lightfoot administration in 2021. And then when Mayor Johnson won the election, we moved forward and we're officially under the Health Department, under the Behavioral Health Bureau, with the Office of Violence Prevention as our counterparts. And then we have 15 community areas which we were designated, or we were assigned to address in 2021. Humboldt Park being the closest one in this community area, but others on the west side include Garfield Park, Austin, and North Lonzo. But Bernardo is the one who is speaking today, so he's going to do an incredible job. I'll be here to support. But just want to thank you all again for having us, and we'll be around after to answer any questions directly, or we'll have a conversation about how we can support this community area and move forward. And the resource guides are in the back if you did not receive one.
Yeah, thank you, John. So our office was established back in 2021 during COVID, as we found a public health approach to community violence. And we were established to coordinate between city departments, community agencies, and a lot of the stakeholders between 15 community areas in the south and the west sides. So what we've seen throughout the years is that the city needed a data-driven approach to community violence, but also a community-led approach to community safety. So that's when the CSCC was established to work collaboratively with community members, with community organizations, a lot of the stakeholders that were existing in these community areas, so we can really address the root causes of violence and hear firsthand what are some of the ideas or concerns in these neighborhoods and how the city can best support. So I always like to say that we are completely community driven, we are data driven, but also work with various other partners such as, our organization that you mentioned, the Institute for Nonviolence, specifically in my region, in the west side and in the far south side, we work very closely to establish a community activation network safety table. These tables serve as a community safety table to hear a lot of the concerns and also come up with the plan in conjunction with community members and community organizations, so the city can hear and prioritize a lot of these ongoing issues. The CSCC was established to have a community engagement role, an infrastructure role, a victim services role, and also a behavioral change role. So I will go through each one and then present a little bit of information. If it is a lot of information and you have a question at any point, feel free to stop me and we're more than happy to answer a question. So let me start off by talking about our community engagement role. So we have community engagement managers from established communities in the south and west sides. We have one for North Lawndale,
South Lawndale.
South Lawndale, Inglewood, and Garfield Park. So these are community members and community organizers that are come directly from that community, that have that expertise, and even though they're a part of the organization, they're not a part of the city, but they work with the city to really uplift some of those issues that have been driving violence in that community and bring it to our attention. We also have community engagement project managers from specific regions, from the far south side, from the southwest side, from the west side,
and the near south.
And the near south, to really work collaboratively and collectively with these community organizations and address some of those community concerns. For example, we worked on safe space activations. We work in conjunction with youth. We work with reentry services, mental health providers. We really want to ensure that everyone is a part of the table when we're talking about community safety. And then we also have a rapid response mechanism that John Jones oversees. That rapid response has been a huge success and a huge win for a lot of these communities, as historically these 15 communities have been historically disinvested in. And the way that the response that the city has given is that we needed a rapid response mechanism to really make a change in these communities and address some of those ongoing issues. For example, if we see a pothole request, if we see a vacant lot that needs cleaning and greening, if we see that there is a troubled buildings, we work with the community, with different city departments to bring that issue and make it a priority for that department, and we rapidly respond to those. And it has been making a huge difference in these communities as we are uplifting those concerns to the appropriate department and making that change in a rapid response manner. Does anyone have any questions?
I will add on to that really quickly. So Bernardo mentioned like a pothole, which you may ask like, how is that a community safety concern? Besides someone maybe get upset, but studies show that when environments, when community has pride and ownership of the environment, when it's beautified in a way, then we see numbers across the U.S. where violence has lowered in some communities up to 60%. So having that be something that we address with partnership with the specific city department, that coordination is how we see our role. We hear concerns from the community. We internally address, okay, what department can support us in this? And then we work with them in partnership to then fulfill it and then go back to the community and then see, okay, what are your thoughts? Is this working? Other examples include like street lights. If it's a dark alley or a dark street, as a community member, you probably won't walk the street. But how do we make it safer for you all? Things like trimming bushes, lights, vacant lots is a big thing as well. Graffiti removal, things like that we have with a preventative approach to community safety rather than like after the fact. It's just one mechanism that we utilize to address community safety. But I see you have a hand up.
Yeah, so that sounds very much like the mandate for 311.
Sure. So yeah.
It does not work very often.
So our 301 partners are incredible. I work with 301. I'm in conversation with them every day. So we do push community members to submit those requests through 301 so we can have that documented. But sometimes, for example, there was an incident, I'm not gonna say where a request needed to be fulfilled right away, or violence was gonna be provoked.
Yeah.
Like as soon if it was noticed. So then the request gets submitted, and then that community engagement manager for that community area called me. It's like, hey, by the way, this is something that's going to cause violence if we don't get it addressed. Now, we're not saying this department, you need to go do it right now, but there's like an understanding, okay, this is just community safety concern. We need to escalate this. And we have that with a mutual partnership with those two departments. So we do still push community members to utilize 311, but sometimes we can get some of these requests escalated because of the concern that it might bring to the community itself. I hope that.
And I'm sure there are some neighborhoods where 311, input is dealt with very quickly, and other areas where they just languish, right, for weeks and months, or weeks, months, years. So what you're saying completely makes sense to me. It's like almost an escalation lever, an additional lever, to apply.
Yeah, and that's why it's been a huge success. Do you have a question?
I have a question, but I'll let you go.
Oh yeah, no, that's why it's been a huge success for these 15 priority communities that we've selected, because these community areas have been historically disinvested and ignored, and that's our biggest priority, to uplift that community and make sure that we're holistically working towards reducing violence and bringing everyone to the table in that community area, so we can really address that. And then one of the biggest things that has came out of those is just bringing partners together and having those collaborative and just collective conversations. I want to give an example. Our resource guide that we just distributed is a collective effort of everyone in this neighborhood. We work with the alderperson's office, we work with the district council's office, we work with organizations, so we can create accessible information of what's available in your community area. We have worked on various other information, such as a city resource guide. We have specific community resource guides, because we're very dedicated to making sure that information is accessible, but it's also very informative in a way that people can pick up a piece of paper and know exactly what's in their neighborhood and how they can get support. I'll let you have a question.
Two items. This sounds very familiar to the broken windows theory. If you're unfamiliar with it, it takes one broken window which leads to another, which leads to another, which is complete collapse and depression of a community. So it sounds like this is an approach that's similar to it, or am I wrong in saying that it's completely different? Or
yeah, I would say it's different only because the city has never had a coordinated effort where it was truly community led. So the community engagement managers that he mentioned earlier, and also in our neighborhoods we don't have community engagement managers, because that's a funding piece. That's the reason why there's not 15 in all 15 community areas. But we don't do anything in these communities without someone's approval from that community. So, and for example, in Garfield Park, our community engagement manager is Greg Matthews, who's part of the Garfield Park Right to Wellness Collaborative, who created the Garfield Park Quality of Life Plan. So with that, anything in Garfield Park, if we have an idea as city employees, and we are like, okay, Greg, what do you think? Greg will rip it apart. We'd be like, absolutely not. Because I know the lady over here does not like this. My brother over here is not like this. The owner of that business won't like this, but here's what we can do. So I think that is the different approach, because we're being very intentional, and to the point where it's like, we don't want that result to be the case. And granted, there are some things that we can control, because we are only coordinating piece really for community safety. But for what we can do, we want to ensure that what we do is approved by the community that we're serving. And then from there, if there's a need to go back and readjust, then we can, and just be honest with ourselves, have that intentional conversation. So that's why I think it's different, because there's so much intentionality behind it, where those involved in the conversations, it's not just city folks.
Right. Well, and to that point, it sounds like it's a non-governmental approach to a government program.
Sure. I mean, it's a very holistic approach to something, because we recognize that. So we're not enforcers. So I can't tell the police department what to do. Like, I have no power to do so. That's a whole different thing. But how do we provide the opportunity as a city for a community to kind of, one, be informed and aware? That's the biggest thing. It's like 301, for example. Like, a lot of people know about 301, but I've been in a plethora of community meetings where I bring up 301 and everybody's like, oh, like, what is that? And it's like, oh, I heard about that, but I don't know how to use it. So how do we work with 311 to then go into communities and train individuals, which we are working on actually? How do we train individuals, community members, or train like leaders in the community so that when they're on the block or with their friends, they can be like, oh, we see that request, hey, I got you because I've been trained how to do that. That's something we're working on too. So it's just like that intentionality behind it, and really doing our checks and balances with our community itself before we even like implement something, or anything that we've ever done from the CSE has always been approved by the community that we're serving with.
All right, and my second question to that was, because you mentioned 311, which a lot of us in the room
Sure.
are familiar with. And by
Sure.
the way, I'd be remiss if I didn't say thank you for what you're doing. I think it's a wonderful program, especially the approach. 311 has been brought up.
Sure.
So where in the spreadsheet or the big map, if you would say, is your organization and 311? Do you trigger them or they trigger you?
Yeah, so 311 is its own entity. So again, we don't have the power to say to 311. So we actually do not communicate with 311 because 311 is just the hub.
Yeah.
So the request goes through 311, then 311 will disseminate that to the proper department.
Yeah.
Or that department will get that request through 311. Is just like getting that coordinating piece.
Clearinghouse.
Yeah. So I have conversations with 311 a lot because I want to go over some of the data. And when I present the community, like I want to have like, oh, we see on this block that has a huge community safety concern, we've fulfilled this number of requests through the past year or so. But with 301, we don't tell them what to do, but what we do is if we get that request, we go to the specific department to escalate that. We don't go directly to 301. 301 just is the hub for us. And then, for example, like Streets and Sanitation, who've been incredible partners,
Yeah.
they'll say, okay, here's what we can do in this time, because of course, we can't drop everything for one need, but they'll like definitely, okay, we'll put it on our agenda, and like, again, incredible partners, but that's how it kind of works on our end. But 301 is just one piece.
Yeah.
Like something I don't want to get us to be like lost on is like, it's just those requests, because, and we'll get into it a little bit more, maybe the conversation is kind of going this way, but it's more, we understand that for community safety, it's more than just like being preventative, because we also have, like victim services, who provides a whole bunch of resources to individuals who unfortunately do suffer from gun violence, whether it's fatal or non-fatal. We also are able to support communities, community organizations, but also block club presidents with hosting like block club parties, through like things like logistics, tables, chairs, and such that could eat up in someone's pocketbook, if we're being honest. We have the ability to do that in our funding to support some of those through our city contracts. For the victim services, another piece is the ESVF, which Bernardo will expound on a little bit more later. But, you know, we have a program, the Emergency Supplemental Victims Fund, where someone who is a victim of gun violence fatally can receive up to $3,500, their family can receive up to $3,500 in expenses right up front in a few weeks, in like a week or two, which is now citywide under 24, but in our 15 community areas, is any age. There's some logistics there for sure, but it's just like, how do we, again, coordinate this so that we're addressing each of the pieces? Now, we might miss some, which is why we come in the community and you tell us, hey, y'all ain't thinking about this. This is why we're here. But there are specific other avenues that would really work through from that perspective.
I had a question over here.
So you brought up funding, knowing that our city has a ginormous budget shortfall
Sure.
for 2025. Have you heard that your funding or resources are at risk?
So I'll take this one. We are funded through the health department. We have not been told that our funding will be diminished. Yeah.
There, do you still have a question?
No, it's good. That's a day job.
All right.
Any other, there was one more question?
Just in general, and actually for our counselors as well. So this is awesome. I mean, I think the more that there is deployed organizers, which is basically what you are, that you've been empowered.
Yeah.
How are you finding the reception from the different? You mentioned that Streets and Sands has been pretty positive.
Sure.
Because ultimately, like 311, like you were saying, you call 311 and like, you know, is it a joke or not? But all they are is a clearinghouse. So
Sure.
you call them and it's like, if the problem, they're like, oh, this is a Streets and Sanitation and you're in blah, blah, blah. And they just pass it to the department. And then if it dies at the department. There's a question mark at the end of that.
Sure.
It's not a statement. But so what I'm really curious about, though, in your role is like, are you getting tolerated by the departments, or is there actual engagement? Are they like, okay, yeah, we wanna serve the city. You're helping. You help us do that because you're bringing us issues that the people
Yep.
care about.
Yep.
Yeah. How
Yeah, I can share a little bit about that. So, in the People's Plan for Community Safety under the mayor's office, Mayor Barron Johnson, which we're not. I lead one of the pillars in that People's Plan, but the CSCC is not part of that. So, just to make sure there's a clear line, we're not the mayor's office. But in that, one of those is 311 infrastructure, and in that piece. For the People's Plan, it's right now it's 4 neighborhoods: South Lawndale, Austin, Garfield Park, and Inglewood, where there's a lot of intentionality on a hyper focused level with specific block groups. This all can be found if you look at People's Plan 2024 Chicago. You can find the information. Unfortunately, I don't have it on paper with me, but one of those is a workshop that I had with a multitude of departments. Is how we believe that everyone can play a role in community safety. From a community member standpoint, from an organization, from a business, all the way to city departments. Every city department can play a role in community safety. So when it says, I would say it's more than tolerated because we are received very well. In fact, I feel like we're embraced because they understand the work that's being done from our perspective. And the city, again, has never had such an intentional coordination piece ever in our history. Like my job is to call city departments throughout the day just to see, okay, I'm checking in on this, I'm checking in on that. Oh, there's a problem. Okay, let's meet today to discuss this. All because it's for the community that we're serving. This is why we get paid to do our job, is to not to serve ourselves, but to serve the community. And for me, that looks like calling departments to check in. So I would say we're way more than tolerated. We're embraced. They find value in us as the same because we value them. Because we know I can't do it without them. I'm not the one that's going to cover up graffiti. I'm not the one that's going to trim those trees. But I can, from my perspective, I can share that the community is grateful for that. And then for them as a department, I think the people I've interacted, that's what like drives them to continue this. Rather than just being like, it's a CAC calling again, let me answer this. That makes sense.
It does. Thank you.
Yeah, and then one thing I do want to add is that, over the past years, we built amazing relationships with city departments and also have been very proactive in the conversations that we're having. So we're not just, picking up the phone when something happens, but we're having those constant conversations before something even happens, And
we're also looping them into community.
Yeah.
So that's another, sorry to cut you off, but in regards to that, we had a conversation in Inglewood where a department, I coordinated the meeting. I was like, hey, we'd love to meet. The Inglewood would love to meet with you. That deputy commissioner was like, okay, cool. They met, passed off. Now they're having continuous meetings. So for me, that's the goal. It's like, okay, my role one day, I may not be in the seat.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do I prepare with intentionality to prepare for something like that, where it's like, okay, instead of being like a middleman, now we can go straight from community to department. And we're seeing more progress in that and just this year alone.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. That was an amazing question, by the way, so thank you. Before we move, does anyone have other?
Yeah,
It was when you were speaking earlier about things like potholes and lighting.
Yeah.
Reminded of a friend of mine who lives out in the south suburbs, so it's outside the city, but he's been doing a lot of volunteer work in Harvey, where they said that potholes are a major problem for, not just ripping up the shocks and the transmission of your car, but it's an easy opportunity for carjackings. When people have to slow down that much and try to get around them. And he's also been working a fair amount on, this is all without city input in Harvey, but volunteer input to board up abandoned houses, which were, easy places for people with problems or up to, various kinds of mischief to hang out, and that the neighbors were always very appreciative of that. And I know you'd also mentioned lighting. I noticed that, now this is probably put in privately, but a few miles further north by Northeastern Illinois University, there's a yeshiva on the other side of the street. And I think within the last year, they put up floodlighting at night on the outside of it so that, no one would be able to come up and vandalize or, without being seen like it was, high noon on a summer day.
Sure.
What of these sorts of physical inputs like lighting abandoned houses, street conditions like potholes. Is there any of those that stands out to you as the most important thing in the communities that you've been focusing on? That's the most obvious thing that would be an easy fix?
I mean, every single infrastructure request would be an obvious thing. I think what I found very interesting was, even as far as like cutting down trims from a tree is affects violence. Cutting down bushes affects violence. Potholes is a big leading issue to violence. And I think the beautification, the infrastructure piece, and the environmental piece has been a huge thing that has came out of these community safety conversations, because it's something that's so important, but hasn't been historically talked about in the past. So I always like to say this because back when we first established in 2021, we built out a community safety framework and met with each department to talk about their role in community safety and how they are going to prioritize it with the Community Safety Coordination Center. So we met with infrastructure departments like Streets and Sanitation, Department of Transportation, and we built out a priority and a community safety framework of how they are going to be playing a role in lowering violence in these community areas. So even as far as like potholes or trimming trees, fencing vacant lots, people fly dump and leave abandoned cars in these neighborhoods, it makes a huge difference to just be fixing that pothole, fixing that tree, fixing that cleaning, just cutting down, mowing the lawn. I think that has made a significant difference in really addressing a lot of those infrastructure and environmental issues in these community areas. I
will say though, I think to your question, I think it varies. So in one community, it could be, or actually, honestly, I think it's more of like a block by block level.
Actually, yeah.
Like this block needs trees cut. This block may need graffiti removed. This block may need those lights to be repaired. I think that is why we have had so many conversations. Like my team, because Bernardo's a project manager for the west side, but I have one for the south, near south, and all that, and then other project managers for other teams. And their job throughout the week, when they're not like doing administrative things or having regular set meetings, is to identify more community members to have conversations with. Which I kind of want to transition to our community activation network that we have in a multitude of our community areas. We actually just left one in a ward up north, ward. And the purpose of these groups, is to have a community-led community safety planning committee, that is led by the community, that is supported by the CSCC, and that presents data, qualitative and quantitative, so that the team that's sitting in can then take the information back internally and discuss. So that is the space that we utilize, and we invite community partners to join in their community areas, so that, because I can't be on every block of the city, Bernardo can't be on, we all can't be on every block of the city, but we can be intentional about inviting individuals from these blocks in our 15 community areas, and then moving forward with okay, you have a perspective of, I live off in North Lawndale, so 19th and Troy. Oh, you have the perspective of 19th and Troy. Well, you have the perspective of 21st and Troy or Wassenaar or something. So let's invite you to this committee, so then that we can be intentional in hearing the concerns, because we won't be at one time. But we have found that to be the perfect place for us as a team to hear directly from community, because again, we may go over data. It says there was an incident at this block. Someone could say, oh, I know exactly what happened. It was this and this that led to that. Or we have no idea, because we also invite businesses and CPD to those meetings as well, so that we can kind of get the whole picture. So I think to the point of it's block by block, but those community activation networks, these community safety planning committees, these are like the hub. That's the hub where we receive the information, and then we move forward from there. So I think it just varies, if I'm being honest.
I can believe that.
Yeah.
One last question along those lines. With pothole filling, I believe it's still technically illegal to do, unless it's the city or the state doing it. Is there any move in the community meetings for people to say, would it be easier if we could just fill these ourselves? Get some gravel, get some tar.
I don't believe so. Okay. There may have been. I haven't been to all of the meetings, but I think it's something where a conversation that's something we can take back to CDOT and ask them, Is there movement on this? What's the thoughts? And then again, from our perspective, it's like, okay, if this is hypothetical, like this is not saying I'm not committing to doing this, but is there a possibility that we could work something out where there's like because I know a lot of communities want to be community led, even in the repairing of their own community.
Yeah.
So how can they play a role in that? That's something that, again, that insight is why we're here, so we can hear and then think about, okay, that's a great idea. How do we move forward in that? Again, I'm not committing to that, but I'm just saying that that's something that,
Sure.
you know, is worth bringing up.
And I'll say for the record, that came up from that example again from a friend volunteering down in Harvey, that since city administration is bordering on defunct in
Sure.
Harvey, like, well, we might as well get our own
Sure.
gravel and a shovel. you
Sure,
know?
sure.
They're not gonna do it for us, so thank you both.
My question is, you mentioned that you don't have any control over what police does. I guess how does your work relate to specifically the police department? Do you all interact at all, or how do they relate to you?
Yeah, you want to share about the Far South?
Yeah. So the police department they have been amazing partners, and even have been amazing at having those difficult conversations and coming to these meetings and spaces where people can talk about their interaction with the police department. I'll give an example with the Far South Side, with the 5th District specifically. So in these community activation networks in the Far South Side, we've had a lot of community members, community organizers, organizations, faith-based groups, everyone that's involved in the community come to these meetings where we've had, consent decree meetings, we've had presentations by the 5th District, we've had conversations with the 5th District, and really just came to just having a conversation and just, working closer together, because we know that even though we're working with police, we do need those non-police responses and those providers that are not police in these community areas, and that's so important. And the 5th District has committed to working with us to not only be always enforcing security, but providing those resources to community organizations, with street outreach organizations, and they've been such a great partner in just having those difficult conversations. And even though we may not have the control to tell the police department what to do, they've just been, it's just a self-sustainable relationship where we don't really have to just tell them all the time what to do, but they'll be part of those conversations and part of those meetings where they will be more than happy to work together with community.
Kind of along those same lines, do you interact with the beat meetings?
Yeah.
Problems from those? How do you do that?
So I've gone to BEAT meetings, I've presented at BEAT meetings, and they have been very informative in us to just come into the space and talk about our work, but also to just be informed of how we can support CPD in those BEAT meetings and how we can best provide information, and the follow-ups too with not only the police department, but people who come to those BEAT meetings, with those organizers, with those residents that have attended those meetings. I've been invited to many of those BEAT meetings and have attended a lot, where I've just not only listened on the perspective of the city employee, but also just gone as a resident to my local police department meetings. And it's gave me a really great insight of how we can work more collaboratively with CPD, but just gain information that we may not always get from just going to those BEAT meetings.
Yeah, because it might be, we've had problems since the beginning of the year where cars are getting broken into on Kedzie Avenue, just east of Milwaukee, where there's a bunch of businesses and restaurants and stuff there. And the numbers 50 break-ins every month. It's just incredible. And it doesn't seem to get solved. So how could you help us in our beat address that kind of a problem? It's driving the businesses crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Where is this located? You said Kedzie and...
Yeah, it's beat 1414.
Can you give me the intersecting streets?
It's basically just south of Kedzie and Logan Boulevard. In Milwaukee, where they meet, and just south of that, like 2500 block of Kedzie.
Yeah, we can have a conversation and connect after this, so we can make sure we follow up, and I'll give you all my contact information. So if you guys have any other questions or concerns, we can have a one-on-one and talk about how we can best support the work. But I would love for us to connect and talk more about how we can support that.
Our next meeting.
Yeah, we would love to. And that's all
how
about.
How do people contact you?
So we're on, if you look up we have a website, I'm sorry, I'm blanking, but if you look up the Community Safety Coordination Center, City of Chicago, you'll find the website. We also have, oh yeah, it's on the back of the flyers.
And it's on the resource guides
Yep,
as well.
It's on the resource guides.
And we have in the resource guides, there's a website. And then I can give you all my contact card and John as well, so we can, be more well connected. But the most important that we wanted to come out of this meeting is, for us to be present and also to just give information, so we can, be in constant communication, and for you all to be aware of the work that we're doing and how we can work together on that.
We also have an Instagram page, which is a great platform for us because we advertise events that we're supporting in the community. So you'll see videos. It's like at CHI-COMM safety. There you'll see Bernardo, myself, other colleagues sharing about events happening this week, just so community is informed. One thing, I don't know if we're at time, but one thing I just want to make sure I emphasize is the CSCC, we have 15 community areas that when we receive our funding, we are only allowed to put funding in those community areas. However, the coordinating piece is something that we can be of help and outside of our 15. So just want to make sure I just clarify with that.
If you gentlemen wouldn't mind sticking around for any further questions.
Yeah. No, we'll definitely be
I
here.
appreciate you coming out here and giving all this valuable information.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
And for the record, I also have your leftovers on the
Oh,
top
good.
there, in case anybody needed an extra copy to bring to them. Okay, thank you once again. And did you put your name in for the record, by the way, sir?
I did not, but I can.
We've got a note taker here.
Oh, John Jones.
John Jones. Thank you, Mr. Jones. Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Gomez, for that wonderful presentation. High value information being shared there.
Yeah.
Okay, so next item we have on our agenda is discretionary budget priorities.
Okay. I made a budget request for a laptop and a phone for myself for 3 purposes: to have an available professional office business line for constituents to reach me, to be able to have to display presentations, such as when we have guest speakers, and also to showcase public resources potentially through that type of display, and to also have consistent control over being able to live stream and still having access to files and documents. So I made that request. We haven't used the majority of our budget, and we have a deadline of December 13th to make any requests for this year. So I think that equipment at this time is particularly prudent because that should be useful throughout. I've notified before about my intention to make that request. I don't have any problem with my co-counselors, getting phones or laptops. I'm not too picky in, what type of thing. But yeah, other stuff that I'm interested in could be like services, like a Zoom account or Canva or things of that nature, website hosting or a multi-social management platform like Hootsuite or something to expand on like other platforms. I think that ideally we'd probably want to use more of the funding next year for more services, like to pay, maybe to have more trainings and different things, whether that's medical trainings or other stuff. But yeah, I'm curious what my other counselors and what even other people think we should be spending some of this money on. There's a very limited time frame currently, but then also into next year, I'd like to have a better plan. That basically concludes my, I think that there are some broad categories that we could think about it in terms of equipment, services, professional services, space costs, and then other service costs. So by the first time I said services, I meant sort of software subscriptions, and then professional like hiring or paying experts or type of thing. So yeah, space, experts, software, and equipment. Those are the 4 categories that I see. There was a hand over here.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, this attendance is on the lower end, like, compared to the average meeting, but, I think we need to have more people in these meetings, and outreach needs to be prioritized, like, outreach, like door knockers, most notably, because, like, if people from the community aren't coming to this meeting, then, you know, what's the point? And I mean, there are people here, I don't mean to like diminish that, but we need more people. This is a very big district.
I'm personally completely supportive for all the district counselors being equipped with laptops or phones. I think whatever makes sense. I think in terms of subscriptions, I think a Zoom license is fantastic. You know, I wasn't feeling so great this morning. I would have loved to have actually just been able to participate virtually, but there's not that option, so I came in, and I know that there are people who are maybe don't have transportation means or, you know, other constrictions, so I think a Zoom license would be great. Hootsuite, sure, why not? I use it in my job as well. You can, you know, basically widen your social media reach. But again, I would say that's very much targeted to a certain demographic, right? I mean, we have community members who may not have Instagram accounts or Facebook accounts, right? So that's where the good old fashioned knocking on doors, putting up flyers, I think, you know, we want to look at a sort of an augmented or a comprehensive strategy. But I think I'm completely supportive of you using the dollars that you have this year. And I would say you all probably know best what you need and get it done.
What's the annual budget?
Roughly 5,000?
Is that accurate, Anna? Yeah, 5,000 per district.
Per district.
So, and there's 22 districts, so
Yeah.
keep that in mind as well.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not pushing back on any of your items here. A couple of things that usually come up, considering my experience with budget and assets and things like that, is custody is the number one thing. You kind of clarified that a little bit, saying that you're not against Councilor Vargas and myself getting similar items for ourselves for the convenience and things like that. So that kind of satisfies that issue to a degree. Especially when you're dealing with government items, it's got to be appropriately maintained, safeguarded. You know, asset ID needs to be audited every so often. So as long as you're going to take the responsibility on that, I have no issue with that.
I admit I'm not familiar with the audit process.
Well, no, I mean, they have to, I mean, my experience, and I think it's similar to what the CCPSA is scrutinized with as well, is every 6 months you have to do a complete audit, an inventory check, and make certain every item is accounted for.
City
That's
property that you
that's
might be in possession with?
That it's in current working condition and that sort of thing, right?
Okay.
So and workable. And even if something should break, there's a protocol you have to go through in order to get it repaired and that sort of thing. So if you're willing to take on that, like I said, I have no issue with the items that you're requesting.
For specifically for the phone and laptop that I already requested, I think that I would be able to do to keep track of them certainly.
No, I mean, but like I said, if someone steals your backpack, and hopefully that doesn't happen, you know, if something gets broken, you know, it's a bigger undertaking than I think that we as consumers just naturally adhere to. So yeah, like I said, if given my optics on it, I think that you know, this is not our money. This is.
Can I ask you, do you have any interest in acquiring any equipment? Because I think this would be the best time to do it.
I do.
Okay.
And I was leading right into that.
Sorry, great.
This is not our money. This is the money of the people we serve.
I had a question. When will y'all finalize this budget? Or like when will we know like the final
So
budget?
we don't actually have our own budget. We make budget requests through a process that has been told us by staff, and that process has evolved a couple times. But it is an approximate dollar amount that they tell us that we might be able to have access to, but they are actually getting these budget requests from the city from different pots that they're placed in through the city council budget process. So they're filling this through a number of bizarre ways, and we have no direct control over it ourselves. So we follow the process set by the staff. Did that answer the question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, but like I was alluding to, you know, and it kind of ties in together, especially with the custody of the items and assets and that sort of thing. One thing, and I have a copy for you to review of my request, Matter of fact, I'll let you take a look at these items that are supportive of it. And it kind of satisfies a couple of the things that you were talking about. This is, and it is available at one of the city vendors. I did take a look and to make certain that we did that. Basically, this is, in short of saying, it's essentially like a 27-inch iPad that can be battery operated. It's all, doesn't have to be plugged in all the time. It's basically a computer on a stick to a certain degree. It's got a web camera so we can stream things. We can use it for a display for presentations and that sort of thing. There's two different versions of it. One of which is on a stick that wheels around very easily. The other one fits in a briefcase. That's this one.
Oh, okay.
You know, and that being said, part of the features that I would say to this is, if we use it once a month, is it being underutilized? Well, the good thing about it is our staff would maintain custody and control of the item, and it can be used just about any district that warrants the need for it.
Question. So, does this mean, so I understand what you're asking for, and David, I understand what you're asking for, but I guess my question is, you know, does that mean the city did not provide you, or there was nothing within CCPSA that provided you with tools to do what you've been elected to do? So are you using your personal cell phones for district council business, and are you using your personal laptops for Yeah, so that in and of itself is a risk issue. I mean, absolutely, assets have to be, I work for government as well, assets have to be tagged.
For the city accounts, we're logged into like a virtual machine.
Right.
And so they're checking our credentials.
That's not equipment.
Right.
Constantly.
Right.
Right. But yeah, so if we maintain a city account on any device that we have access to, it's through a virtual credential process.
That we have to change email passwords every, it seems like 14 days. We also have to sit there and verify when it logs out for us. We have to go back in and re-verify, make certain that it's us and we've got the proper credentials to get in. So there's checks and balances in place. Maybe not to the high degree of, say, sensitive or classified information, but we still have access to perform our duties with our own equipment.
But
Right.
yes, we weren't sent, we were not given the
You're
equipment.
using your own personal equipment.
Right.
Yes, you're correct, yes.
Okay.
But you were telling me about this, okay, and,
Yeah, it's
right.
it kind of tells you.
Were
all
you
the
more
features.
interested in one than the other? I mean, I get this
Either one, you know, I mean, like I said, I don't think we really need two, but I think that especially given the fact that staff said that they would maintain custody of it and bring it out for us for our meetings.
And this one can be rotated to
Yes.
either direction, okay.
They both can.
You know, I mean, right, based also on the fact that we have not spent the majority of the funds, and we have a week to do any additional spending. You know, I don't think I have any strong objections. I do think this one is maybe a little more useful potentially, or it might seem, I guess it might seem more professional than like placing that on a table.
Well, and there's the pros and cons to both.
What are the
you're
pros
absolutely
for
right.
to this one?
Portability.
Gotcha.
Portability is the number one thing there.
Right, so
And
would this be
especially
able
when
to be
we're-
transported by staff? And
Would have to be taken down and rebuilt at every location.
Oh, okay, so you'd screw it back together. Do you have a recommendation?
Either or. I don't want to, like I said, this is public people's money, and I think we just need to practice due diligence with every red cent that we spend of their money. And I think that we need to take a highly caustic approach.
I guess, so just for my reaction, this one to me feels, you know, to some degree like a downgraded laptop, right? I'm not, it's, you know, the display to me seems a bit odd, and I would compare it to, you know, just like the laptop. So is it really, you know, is this the best laptop for $1,000 or whatever? You know, but this one, I see that it seems to me like it has some novel functionality for displays. So this one seems more different to me than a laptop, which seems like, I know there's a million laptops that you can get, but, you know, I guess.
To be clear, they're the same thing. It's just
Right.
that this one's in a portable case and this one not.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Well, also another thing is, could they be used as a laptop if we were trying to project much larger? Would they be able to interface with a projector?
as HDMI and USB.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that's in some of the specs. Mr. Salem, do you have a question?
I have a laptop that I use an HDMI cord to actually work off a projector for one of my jobs. the whole thing costs big together, it's probably less than $1,000. And I have an HP laptop, and then it's a small projector that actually fits in the basket of my walker. So it is very possible to do for fairly economical amount of money.
Yeah, and the two libraries have screens, and Humboldt has its own larger display. But
You can do it very economic for that kind of.
So I definitely agree that it should be possible to use projectors for a larger display, but I think that there could potentially be, if this is easier to set up without having to use a projector, there could be some use to that potentially.
If you want, I will at some point show you the projector I use.
Cool. I would not be opposed to this. I don't think I would probably prefer, I guess,
You know how to
the stand
read
one,
it, so.
assuming that it is, that it would be useful with the stand, including the transport and assembly, if that's not, overly burdensome or something, I guess.
It's on a table.
And choosing the different, between the two models that I present here is ultimately gonna fall on staff, what's more readily available, what they are more comfortable with, considering they're gonna be the custody holders. So I'm good with either one. I know that you prefer one over the other. I guess I'm indifferent. As long as we get something that can facilitate that. I think it kind of satisfies some of the concerns that you brought up with your request as well. Not that I'm trying to deny your request. I would appreciate your co-sponsoring that budget request. Though.
Yeah, I mean, so I don't think I'm opposed to it. I think it could work. I do stop short of saying that I think it replaces fully the need for a laptop, because I think that there could be circumstances where we would want to plan for a full projection, and that also me having control of the item where I can communicate with the guest speakers and receive the presentations ahead of time and all that sort of thing. I think that there is a purpose to having a computer that can do everything as well. But this seems okay to me, especially just given that I don't have a plan for all of the funding. So I do I place mine as a higher priority, the ones I already made, but I don't have any opposition to this.
Okay. Perfect. All right, thank you. Okay, well, and like I said, this is more internal. We don't actually have to vote on expenditures of budget. We just need to have more than one of us agree to the expenditure, just for visibility's sake, so you know how the sausage is made on this end. The next item we have on our agenda is
Do we have some votes? Or we have to vote on the calendar at least.
Right.
Do we have
Right.
any minutes for votes? Not today?
Not
Okay.
today. I did send
No
you the
problem.
October one just now.
Oh, okay,
You
thanks.
should definitely go on your calendar.
Sorry. Okay.
I've got
Just check.
you got a copy of that as well.
And these are all good.
All right, so, and I'll provide copies at the back room. I didn't want to put them out there in case we needed to move left or right on any of these. If you received my email yesterday, I talked about there's a couple of dates in here that are going to be a little different from our normal path here. Looks like that was in June and September, because there's a conflict, the CCPSA, the citywide item, district council meetings and things like that.
Well,
So-
yeah, the quarterly district council meetings will be those first Saturdays of June. So instead of the 7th, we meet the 14th of June, and we meet the 13th of September instead of the 6th of September. There's also a location irregularity where there's a pattern to meeting in each of the three libraries, but those two are switched for October and November. So it goes
Here in
Humboldt in
September.
August, Wicker in September, and then back to Humboldt in October, and then Logan in November, because Logan cannot host other events. They're too busy in October.
Okay. All right, so that being said, looks like with the exception of the June and September meeting, which would take place on the second Saturday, and of course the location matter that you brought up, looks like we're going to stick with our traditional plan of the first Saturday of every month, starting at 1 p.m. Is that accurate?
Yes, it is.
All right, and you want to propose?
I'd like to propose adopting this 2025 meeting calendar for the 14th District Council.
Okay, given the fact that we do not have a counselor here to second that, I will just go ahead and present it up for unanimous consent if there's no objection. All right, so moved. We now have a set calendar for 2025, which I said I've got many copies printed out here, and I'm willing to let any of you take these home so you can make certain to join us. for those said dates.
Great.
All right.
Just announce the next meeting.
And we will get to that when we get to adjournment. Any other items that we are overlooking? So just to recap, in January, we will be voting on the approval of October 2024 meeting minutes, the quarterly and annual meeting minutes that were just a few weeks ago, and this month, correct? So we've got 3 different minutes to go over in January.
I suppose so.
All right, just giving you a preview there.
Thank you.
All right, that being said, do we have any objections or motions to adjourn before we announce our next item, our next meeting?
I'll motion to adjourn.
All right, given unanimous consent to adjourn, this meeting will be adjourned as soon as I read off. Next month's meeting will be January 4th, Saturday, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and that will be at the Logan Square Library at 3030 West Fullerton Avenue. That being said, time now is 2:28, and we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. And thanks for sticking around, Bernardo and John. So yeah, if there are any additional questions. And don't forget all the handouts from today in the back. Hey,
I've seen you before. How are you?
good. How are you? Thanks for coming. Appreciate it.
Of course.
It's usually a little smaller when we do this location for whatever. I'm pretty stoked. But
It's all good.
and now we're getting to.
I'm gonna say hello.
Not like you have budget 3 times. It's not like you have budget 3 times.